Hello everyone. So I've been recording myself speaking about my recent ayahuasca ceremony experiences. I have experienced 6 ceremonies so far, and this ceremony that I'm about to recount is number 5, which happened somewhere in April, either on the 8th or 9th of April of this year, 2023. As I've described in other videos, ayahuasca ceremonies tend to be quite introspective sessions where one is given the medicine ayahuasca to drink, and then one lays on one's own mattress and lays down and feels, sees, connects with oneself to see and feel whatever is to be seen and felt. In this particular session, number 5, I drank ayahuasca. And it felt like I mostly connected to my body and to my body's channels. And if there were one word that I could use to describe this particular session, I would use flow. Because during this whole experience, I had this strong impression that my entire organism was just an enormously intricate web network of channels. Channels and channels and channels that connect to other channels, that connect to other channels, that connected from the physical realm to the more ethereal realm and to the more lighter, subtler realms of the emotional and the mental. Just channels, 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 channels everywhere. An enormous, vast array of channels through which energies flow. And the way it seemed to me was that consciousness in the form of light, in the form of white light, is seeping in from above. Through its own network of channels that connects to my channels through other channels. And this light pours in, literally pours in, and goes and explores and gradually digs its way through my entire being of channels. Channel at a time, channel at a time. And it felt like, ideally, this flow would simply be allowed into my whole being, into my whole body, and this light would help it grow and evolve and become healed and better. Would help it grow. But as things stand, it seems that flow encounters hindrances. Sometimes it encounters obstacles. Sometimes it encounters friction. And it seems like the network of channels that I am, that my person is, when it has not yet received the consciousness, the light of consciousness, it can feel afraid of this light that is coming through. I'm not sure exactly why, but also there are parts of the body of this network of channels that hurt, that have been hurt at some point or another. And when they're hurt, there's pain and a reaction in these channels. It does a reaction so that flow is not smooth through there anymore. Flow, yes. And there are helpers. There were entities through the flow that kind of swam all throughout, through the flow, very regularly, up and down, like it were streets of entities flowing up and down. Some of them were helping. They were mostly helping because they were part of my network. But it felt truly like we were just one enormous connected organism. Because my channels were also connected to the channels of my neighbor through channels that were more ethereal, but they were there. Just some kind of channel went there eventually. Yes, and it truly felt like, I would say roads, highways I'll call it, highways of energy, through which different entities, it even felt like it seemed like they were following a two-way direction, like the one's going this way over here and the other one's going over here. This intricate network of highways, of channel highways. And so when there is hurt, something happens, and I wonder if I can find the piece of paper where I drew this, because I drew something about it. I found it. Well, this is what it looks like. With my crayons, well, not mine, with the crayons that were given to us the next day, I drew these channels that try to represent the enormity of the web of channels that make us all up. It was just channels, channels, and channels. And what I tried to represent here is the yellow part represents light consciousness, that is attempting to go and sweep, to permeate through the entirety of our beings. And then there are parts that hurt within us, such as this part in here or this part in here, and they quite literally create some kind of scab if something hurts in here. And then these kinds of disturbances in the flow can be quite, well, problems with emotions, like this part of here could represent, for example, some frustration or some resentment, that when the cap is sufficiently just taken off or like scratched off, then this can erupt in quite a bit of violence, because the flow just comes out after so much pressure. And there are different kinds of wounds react in different ways, and hence the different types of emotions that we can have. And these little light blue things are the little entities that moved through the channels, and the dotted lines in between the channels are the highway separators between where the entities moved around. So one direction moved from one side and the other and the other. And I don't quite remember what these things with little legs were. I wonder if it represents some kind of vibration. But the idea was that this network extended everywhere through the entirety of my being, within channels and channels and through channels, all enormously intricate though. Monitor. A very intricate web of channels from me through the entire world, out into the world, through to other people, into the air, into the animals, into the ground, everywhere, just channels. And this light of consciousness trying to make its way down through the soul. Consciousness, the soul. And when it encounters these scab areas, these damaged areas, there is some healing to be done. There is some healing that needs to take place. And we have the ability to focus our consciousness in a certain place and bring healing to that area through intentional consciousness. That is how it feels. That when we bring our consciousness to someone, we can intentionally move things here, and perhaps we can soothe things, perhaps bring it over here and allow the flow to become gentle, allow it to move out little by little in a controlled manner, so that then the flow is relieved, and then perhaps consciousness can come in and flow and attempt to truly understand how this anomaly came to be, so that it can be healed and it can be processed and integrated into our whole network of consciousness, which is growing gradually as we experience more and more. So that's what I felt. And then these words also came out, which I wrote over here on the other side. And I will read them, translating them into English as I go. It says, cleanliness, attention, consciousness, diligence, patience, understanding, trust. These are the words that I felt were described the qualities best brought to the maintenance of our person, of these channels. And it also says, it is our task to clean our channels in order to allow consciousness and divine energies to flow. To permeate us. And to be and to know us in our wholeness, both dense and subtle. I have not read this since almost 2 months ago. Diligence, patience. Oh, did I start the other one? I also drew something else that I thought was pretty particular to this session. This was actually the first thing I saw. But it was very vivid, very clear. And when I see objects in these visions, when I saw this object in this vision at least, it felt so vividly three-dimensional and large. Like I knew exactly what I was seeing. And I knew its qualities. In a flash. And this is what I saw. Embodying my drawing skills. It was a scroll that I immediately knew, that's an academic certificate. And with a tap, a water tap that came out of it. It wasn't purple, it was white. But drawing white on a white piece of paper wouldn't have been very visible. It was a white tap that looked plastic, glass-like. And in one flash of seeing, I immediately knew what it meant. It is the concept that the academic certificate or certificates that I have gathered in this lifetime, I use to get water from, to get resources from. Just like, I open up and it gives me water. And the feeling I felt with it was a feeling of uninspired utilitarianism. In a sense that I do not feel inspired when I go out and get some water. I don't feel like this is an objective worthy of following. It's just a tool that I get water from. Like it felt mundane, just like yeah, that's what I do. I'm just milking off the academic certificate that I've gathered in life. And it feeds me. It gives me water. But it has no spark. This I saw before the channels, actually. And then with the channels, I just spent the rest of my time observing and wondering and pondering about, and trying to reach different parts of my body to cleanse them. That ceremony number 5 was not that rich, not as rich in visions as some others. But I did spill a bucket of vomit, someone else's vomit, on the carpet. And I felt quite a bit of regret after doing that. And my body was moving in a very open, regretful manner. Like I almost couldn't bear the regret that I felt for having damaged something that was not mine. I'm still recording. I drifted off. So that was what I remember from my 5th ayahuasca ceremony. The 6th ayahuasca ceremony I have already recorded. It was a very powerful one. And it happened right during the Easter break. I think that's where I'll leave it. So, thank you for listening.